Ask any real car fan what the best type of vehicle is to transport around the family, then the answer won't be SUV, it will be estate car. You might call it station wagon or Avant, but whatever you call it, it's the best option. And if you're willing to drop a lot of cash, there are some seriously exciting options available. But if you're on more of a budget, Kia says you don't actually have to compromise.
This is the new Proceed GT, and while it might not have the curb appeal of some of its more exotic station wagon stablemates, I'm here to explain why your buck spent on this might give you the biggest bang. Because all of this could be yours for the budget-friendly asking price of around £30,000. What does that 30 grand buy you? Well, under the hood you'll get a 1.6 litre turbocharged inline 4, good for around 200 horsepower and almost as much pound-feet of torque. That power goes to the front wheels, which are fitted with McPherson struts, as the rears get double wishbones. Coil springs and gas-filled shocks round out the suspension offering. There's a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, and from a standing start it will hit 62 in 7.4 seconds. Now, on paper, admittedly, that's a modest offering, but it doesn't tell the whole story.
It's important that we put this car in precise context, because it would be easy to try and compare this to like an RS6 and other estate cars that offer high performance, high luxury, but also at a massive price tag. This car comes in at around £30,000, which when you compare it to those other cars seems, well, very cheap indeed. So where does this car compete with those exciting estate cars, and where is it more on the budget side? Well, on the more negative side, the interior is on the cheaper side. The touchable plastics everywhere are nice, but nothing to phone home about. The interior layout is contemporary. It has all the mod cons that you need, but nothing about it screams absolute luxury. The infotainment system with this 10-inch digital display here is perfectly adequate. It's got Apple CarPlay. Not wireless Apple CarPlay, but it has Apple CarPlay, which means that you've got access to pretty much anything that I definitely need on a normal drive. It's got heated seats and heated steering wheel. That's a pretty premium feature even today. Apart from that though, it feels okay. There's nothing special about the interior to write home about. These seats, they're comfortable. They look really nice. They're comfortable on a longer drive, but if you're hustling around on a B road, they don't quite hold you in as much as these bolsters on the side would make you believe that they do. There's plenty of room in the back for as many kids as you feel happy to cram in there, and there's a big old boot. It has all of that practical side that an estate car promises, and it delivers.
But that just covers what you expect to get for this kind of money. There is, however, a lot more to this car than just the basics.
For an estate car in this price range, I don't think there are many that are better looking. You have to go way up the pay scale to the likes of Volvo and Mercedes before you get an estate car that looks quite as attractive as this. It's not 100% great. I'm not too keen on all of the little red accents dotted around this particular car, which offset the white just a little bit too much for my liking, but overall the shape of this car looks great. There are two driving modes available, normal and sport. And normal is exactly what you would expect from a normal driving mode. Easy, soft, comfortable. The sport mode, which you engage with just one button press there, changes just enough about the character of this car to give it a much more sporty feel. For starters, the engine note, it becomes far more pronounced and is, for a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, a not unaggressive note. It has almost a kind of a hollow V6 kind of sound to it. It's a remarkable change up from the normal mode. It doesn't necessarily scream aggressiveness, but it gives it that little bit of a bite, little bit of an edge, especially there on that downshift. You really feel more aware of the engine's presence, despite it being just a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder engine. Throttle sharpens up a bit and the gears hang on that extra bit longer, giving you more access to that torque. This has a 7-speed automatic gearbox, which is plenty of gears to make sure that the engine is always in exactly the right gear to make the most out of the torque. And if you're ever wondering exactly how much torque you're using, there's a handy gauge right up in front of you that shows you from 0 to 30 how much torque you're actually using. It can be quite hypnotic to keep your eye on if not a little bit distracting from the road. There's also a boost gauge to see when you really are pushing the engine enough to get that turbo to kick in. In sport mode, you really are unlocking all of the potential that this car has. That includes the improved sound, the slightly sharper throttle response, and you just feel that the torque that is hiding in that engine is all of a sudden now available. You can very clearly feel the difference in how the engine is delivering the power, and it just pushes this car over that line into the sporty territory.
The chassis gives you a balanced feel, somewhere in the safe zone between too stiff to be comfortable and too soft to be fun. Bumps are absorbed nicely, but through faster bends, the little body roll you get really helps you feel like you're giving it some welly.
The steering has that fairly modern trait of being direct enough to give you confidence to place the car, but numb in the way that doesn't quite give you all the feedback you might want, especially if you're really trying to push it through tight turns like this. The brakes, even in sport mode, don't quite firm up as much as I would like. They still require a little bit more of a press. They will work eventually, but the feel seems to be more dialed in for motorway driving rather than these kind of country lanes. Overall though, there is enough sportiness in this package to make you feel like you can have fun out on a drive, push the car a little bit more, and that improved engine note in the sport mode really helps round out the package.
And it's that all-round combination of engine sound, throttle feel and balance of the chassis that, in the right circumstances, feel pretty sporty and a lot of fun. Off-the-line acceleration or indeed coming to an abrupt stop aren't going to make the Pro C GT feel like a sports car, but when you're at speed and flowing through a sequence of bends, it feels a lot more expensive than it is.
Kia would like to position this car as the only car you would ever need, both in terms of practicality and fun. On the practicality front, you absolutely can't fault it. Well, it's an estate car after all. Plenty of room for passengers, plenty of room for all your gear in the boot. There's every mod con available here, and bar the absolute cutting edge of gadgetry, you've got everything at your fingertips that you could possibly need on a drive. It's comfortable, it's fuel efficient, and it does the job it needs to. In terms of fun, depending on exactly what you want to do and what expectations you set, the Pro C GT has a lot of potential. You're not going to take it to the track, so we have to take that out of the equation. But if you like to go for a Sunday afternoon drive, there's enough here to keep you engaged and entertained. But if you put it in the context of how much the car costs, what it could be going up against, and what else you would have to spend to get a car that could do as much and create as much fun for you out on a drive, it makes it for a very compelling offer. Kia as a brand doesn't bring with it a huge amount of prestige. You're never going to be drapesing your Kia key over your arm trying to convince someone you've made the latest, greatest automotive purchase. But equally, no one's turning their nose up at a Kia. Kia has proven itself time and time again to produce reliable cars. They even put 100,000 mile, 7-year warranty on this car. That's a mark of faith in your product right there. So for something that's pretty bulletproof out on the road and will put a smile on your face, as well as being able to do all the practical tasks you can possibly throw at a car, it makes for a pretty hard thing to disagree with. If you need a car to do absolutely everything, you are always going to end up with an estate. And if you want something that's quick and you don't have the budget to drop on something like an RS6, like unfortunately most of us, then the Kia Pro C GT offers a really compelling option at an entry-level price for a car that can still entertain. It doesn't compromise on looks, it's fun enough out on the road, and if you're willing to forgive some slight budget additions on the interior, you've got yourself a good deal.
There are cheaper wagons available which won't be as fun to drive, and there are competitors like the Ford Focus ST Estate which are brilliant but cost a lot more. All things considered, I think the Kia Pro C GT hits a brilliant sweet spot, as practical as a car can be and fun to drive. Now, an RS6 it ain't, but for less than a third of the cost, you won't care. Thank you so much for watching, we really appreciate it. Consider hitting the subscribe button and hit the bell notification so you don't miss another film from Carfection. We're getting very close to that 1 million subscriber mark, and we really hope you can help us get to that milestone. See you next time.
you.